it is possible to study a sports degree without being sort of so-called good at sport.
I feel like you have to do something that you're passionate about, then you'll always do better in it as well, because you actually want to learn about it, rather than just going to uni for the sake of it.
Yeah, and I think that's sort of one of the big things that comes with studying within the sports health and exercise science department. Typically, people have that sort of drive in them, I think. Like, obviously, it is possible to study a sports degree without being sort of so-called good at sport. But it's sort of that want to understand the physiological processes behind it. And I think I was quite sporty when I was growing up, but I never really considered it as an actual career path. And it was sort of, at the very beginning when I first started, it was kind of, okay, I'm interested in this, but it almost felt like I was doing the degree for the sake of doing the degree kind of thing. But sort of, well, I'm in my third year now, and it's been made apparent, like I'm far more passionate about it than I ever realised. And I have absolutely no idea really what I'm going to do in the future, because I enjoy so much of it. Like everyone's saying, you know, usually by this point in time, you've got a rough idea of what you want to go into. No, I don't. I don't. Being honest, I have no clue, because I feel like there's so many different pathways that I'm like, oh yeah, I can see myself doing that. I can see myself doing that too. So I think that's one thing that I suppose some people would find it stressful, but I think I find it quite exciting, because it's like, well, yeah, I could go and do that for a little bit, and then, no, all right, I've changed my mind, I want to do this now. And
you kind of like roll with the opportunities,
yeah,
and just see if anything sticks.
Yeah, and
I feel like that shows that it doesn't matter if you don't know what you're going to do when you're young, because you can always choose different things to do.
Exactly, and I think, like, I certainly found whilst I was at school, there was so much pressure put on choosing a degree, and obviously choosing your A-levels to suit the degree that you want to do. I didn't do that at all. I chose my A-levels based on what I enjoyed, and then spontaneously decided to come to uni. And I think that, like, it's just a case of reminding yourself that it's not that deep. If you choose A-levels that aren't entirely relevant to the degree you want to do, it's not the end of the world. Like, there will be places that you can go and study a degree that you actually want to do, regardless of, you know, the exams you decided you'd take when you were 16 years old. Like, I think that's one thing that I certainly found very stressful, because I think a lot of people end up studying physical education before doing a sports degree. I didn't, but I had ties to biology, which sort of linked closely enough. And I never felt like I was at a disadvantage. Like, most other people within my cohort took PE as an A-level, and often asked me whether I felt disadvantaged by that. But I didn't, because obviously the lecturers cover all of the content that you need. And that was a worry for me when choosing sports health and exercise science as a degree. Like, it was, oh no, like, I'm not going to have that same level of knowledge everyone else has got. But, you know, it's not that deep, because you're going to be taught everything you need to know anyway. And if you're passionate about it, you do all the extra reading. So, yeah.
Yeah, I always thought I'd be a sports scientist for a professional club after, like, post my degree. I thought it was going to be, I was a bit naive and thought it was going to be a bit plain sailing, where it was going to be, okay, do my 3 years, maybe do a master's, apply for a sports team, hopefully get it because of what I'd gained, and just go in there and just practice and slowly become like head of sports science somewhere. It was only that research side of things only really came about sort of like middle of my third year when I was starting to write up my dissertation, and I was like, hey, this may be a little bit tedious, but it's quite enjoyable because even throughout the last year doing my postgrad masters, it's one of those weird things where you can confidently say I learn multiple new things a day, because the amount of research that I have to read, and everyone puts something slightly different in, and eventually by reading all these research papers, you slowly build up a bank of knowledge of new stuff every single day. So I feel like it's one of those like really good for progression, where like my sort of viewpoint and experience when I started my masters, I'm like a completely different person now than what I was a year ago, especially in a professional setting. Anyways.
I think that's one thing I found as well. Like there's obviously lots of practical work that goes into all sort of the degrees within the SHES umbrella, and you're always working with other people, so you're always bouncing off of ideas with one another. So, that sort of development of knowledge is kind of never ending, because you're always discussing new concepts and sort of theories that are applicable to various different articles that already exist.
It's one of those as well that I found being in a uni that also does and conduct and publish research. You'll be speaking to your supervisor or your lecturer, and you may have just read their paper.
Yeah.
And they're the ones who are they know that paper. It's theirs. So they're the best people to learn off at times as well.